So rumors say if you want a fast BMW, but not so in your face like an M car, you should get an ALPINA car. And if you want the best of the best, you should get the G12 B7, which is what we're in right now. So let's get going, find out what the B7 is like and if it really is a good substitute for an M car. Right now we're in a beautiful Austrian Alps on a lovely pass road which has plenty of switchbacks. So here's where we'll be able to find out what the car drives like, how it feels, how the engine performs. So right now we're in a long wheelbase 7 Series that's been all tricked up by ALPINA, and by tricked up I really do mean tricked up in every sense. They've touched the engine components, the suspension, the gearbox software, the interior, the exterior. That's what makes this 7 Series ALPINA. So before we picked up the B7, we got a very impressive factory tour, really showing all the behind the scenes, how it's made and what's done. So really the process starts with ALPINA making all of the parts in-house, mostly all of them, except for example the exhaust, which is developed with Akrapovic. So they get the parts from Akrapovic, then ALPINA tunes them and fits them to their needs. And then most of the components are manufactured in-house and then sent to BMW or wherever the BMW will be produced. BMW puts together the car and then the car is delivered to ALPINA. And then ALPINA give it their final touches. So all of the exterior, all of the interior. And then it rolls out the factory in Buchla. So let's start with some base facts. The B7 has a 4.4 liter bi-turbo V8. Goes from 0 to 100 in about 3.7 seconds and a top speed of just around 330 kilometers per hour. And it weighs just over 2 tons with the all-wheel drive system, which is what this has. I mean, 0 to 100 in 3.7 seconds and a top speed of 330 in a 7 Series. I mean, a car shouldn't be that fast. So, I mean, we will find out how the size and the weight of the car affects the driving dynamics. So let's start with the biggest factor, the engine. It's born as a 4.4 liter bi-turbo V8. So some of the simple things they changed are pistons and spark plugs. Then they got round to the air intake. They really optimized the airflow of the intake and the outtake, which results in a smaller loss in air pressure, making it more efficient and reducing temperatures. And then they also optimized the airflow of the inlet and outlet of the bi-turbos, which again, there results in a smaller loss of pressure, lower temperatures, therefore higher power output, and more power at lower revs. I'm in comfort right now, and you can hear it's ready to go, but it's still so business and quiet and serene. But just step on it a bit. So What else did they change? They upgraded the intercooler. They also added a bigger radiator and 2 side radiators, overall helping the cooling of the engine. So, let's move on to the suspension. It has air suspension, which has adjustable ride height by 20 millimeters. When you take it up to 230 kilometers per hour, or you put it in sport, it automatically lowers 20 millimeters, majorly increasing the stability and lowering the center of gravity. Right now I'm in sport, and it's so wafty and really comfortable and luxurious. It is unbelievable. But then if I knock it in sport, it transforms. It becomes harder, not such a wafty feeling. It just takes care of the corners, and it makes you forget the weight of the car. Immediately can tell everything has just gotten more angry. The gearbox is more sharp and crisp. The throttle response is a lot sharper, suspension is sharper, and it just takes corners and makes you forget about the size and the weight of the car, and the fact that it's all-wheel drive. I mean, there really is not much understeer. And Alpina have something called active roll stabilization, which reduces the body roll, and it works fantastically. We have some lovely switchback roads here. And now if we turn DSC off, Alpina thankfully have tweaked the all-wheel drive system from BMW and made it a lot more rear-wheel drive biased. I'm really surprised at how much you can chuck this car around. I mean, it lets you kick the rear out, hold an angle, but then it still pulls forward with the front axle. It's just... goodness. Then under overrun, it gives you nice, subtle, but very throaty pops and crackles. I mean, a 7 Series should not be able to do that, but this does it without a problem, without fussing. Then, the car also has rear wheel steering, so the rear wheels will steer up to 3 degrees, which definitely helps taking it through corners. And all these little things added together makes this car very, very dynamic, and like I said, it makes you forget how big and heavy it is. Another very important point is the car does not have the active, whatever you call it, the MP3 sound. So what you hear is real stuff from the exhaust and from the engine. And I think it just sounds fantastic. Not too aggressive, but not too quiet and muted. God, it just gets up there so quick. Rocket. If you take it in a corner, the weight shifts, stable, 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 and then you straighten it out and the car is right there. It's almost as if it pushes back another direction a tiny bit to correct itself. And then it just goes. There's no fuss exiting corners. Straighten it out and off we go. Not a problem. I have to say, this is one of the most stable and balanced cars I've ever driven. Despite the heavy engine in the front, the all-wheel drive system, the size of the car, and the weight of the car. Brakes are fantastic. Haven't had a moment of brake fading. The 396mm discs with 4-piston calipers. God, it's just taking care of these roads so well. I mean, the conditions aren't great. We have about 3 degrees. Relatively rough roads, mixed between damp and dry, and winter tires. So really, this car is in its perfect environment right now. It's what it's set up for. So let's move on to the gearbox. It is the 8-speed ZF gearbox, which in comfort modes does its job perfectly. It's quiet, it shifts so smoothly and just at the right time, not bringing the revs up too high. And you put it in sport and it holds the revs. Put it in manual mode and you can shift where you want, and it really is another amazing aspect of the car. One negative point that I do have, however, are how you shift, and that, as it is in pretty much every Alpina, is with little buttons on the back of the wheel. I understand that this is the tradition of Alpina and they don't want the flappy pedals, but if you're moving the car around and even just doing cornering, it's so hard to find the button and it makes it a bit hard. But nevertheless, the transmission is fantastic at transforming when you switch between drive modes. Sometimes in first gear, if you rev it too high, it hits the electronic limiter and it sticks around there a bit, so you need to take care of shifting it early enough, or you just leave it in S and it takes care of business for you. So after how the car takes care of the weight and size of the car, what I find impressive is just how transformable it is, and comfort it is just the most luxurious, comfortable and sensible limousine, which doesn't look too in your face. The Alpina pinstriping and the bumpers do look very classy, but then you put it in sport and it just becomes angry, it becomes a monster, and it wants to tear every other car apart. Oh, it shifts so fast. What really stands out to me the most from any other car of this class and power and size and whatnot is how well Alpina has taken care of the X-Drive, how well it puts down the power, how much grip it has, and takes care of corners like nothing. Wow, has Alpina done a good job. Newly in love. I mean, I've always loved Alpinas, the way they looked and their way of approaching things, of making their cars more low-key and not so in your face. But after seeing the factory, seeing how they're put together and driving this car, it's on my bucket list to buy one someday. I've really completely fallen in love. So thank you, Alpina, for giving us the car for 3 days, and I'm absolutely sure I haven't even covered close to everything in the car, So if you want to see more on the car, more impressions, go to Joe Achilles' channel. I'll put a link here in the video and down in the description. We spent 3 days together testing this car in town on the Autobahn here in the Pass Road. And yeah, please subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and see you soon.